Today's video focuses on the most devastating airplane accidents in aviation history, their tragic loss of life, causes, and the impact on the aviation industry. Stay tuned. Followers, welcome to my YouTube channel. The first one is Turkish Airlines Flight 981. Turkish Airlines Flight 981 was a scheduled flight from Istanbul Yeşilköy Airport to London Heathrow Airport, with an intermediate stop at Orly Airport in Paris. On March 3, 1974, the McDonnell Douglas DC-10 operating the flight crashed into the Ermenonville Forest, 37.76 kilometers, 23.46 mile, outside Paris, killing all 335 passengers and 11 crew on board. The crash was also known as the Ermenonville Air Disaster. Flight 981 was the deadliest plane crash in aviation history until March 27, 1977, when 583 people died in the Tenerife airport disaster. It remains the deadliest single aircraft accident without survivors, the second hull loss, the deadliest accident involving the McDonnell Douglas DC-10, and the deadliest aviation accident to occur in France. The crash occurred when an incorrectly secured cargo door at the rear of the plane burst open and broke off, causing an explosive decompression that severed critical cables necessary to control the aircraft. To maximize the working space within the cargo hold, the cargo doors opened outwards, making them vulnerable to being forced open at high altitudes under normal in-flight pressure. The DC-10 aircraft experienced a sudden cargo door blowout due to a design flaw. The loss of cabin pressure disrupted the control cables, causing the plane to plunge into the Ermenonville Forest near Paris. All 346 people on board perished in the crash. This disaster led to a redesign of the cargo door locking mechanisms on DC-10s and other aircraft, ensuring they could not be latched improperly. It also resulted in more rigorous certification testing for all aircraft door designs. Second, Tenerife Airport Disaster. Location: Los Rodeos Airport, Tenerife, Canary Islands. Fatalities: 583. The Tenerife Airport disaster occurred on March 27, 1977. At Los Rodeos Airport, two Boeing 747s, one from KLM and the other from Pan American World Airways, were on the same runway due to heavy fog and a bomb threat that diverted both aircraft to Tenerife. Miscommunication between the pilots and air traffic control led the KLM captain to attempt takeoff, believing he was cleared, while the Pan American aircraft was still taxiing down the runway. The impact and the resulting fire killed all 248 people on board the KLM plane and 335 of the 396 people on board the Pan American plane, with only 61 survivors in the front section of the latter aircraft. With a total of 583 fatalities, the disaster is the deadliest accident in aviation history. The KLM aircraft was a Boeing 747-206B, named Rhine. The KLM jet was carrying 14 crew members and 235 passengers, including 52 children. Pan American Flight 1736 had originated at Los Angeles International Airport, with an intermediate stop at New York's John F. Kennedy International Airport. The aircraft was a Boeing 747-121, named Clipper Victor. It was the first 747 to be delivered to an airline. Tenerife was an unscheduled stop for both flights. Their destination was Gran Canaria Airport, also known as Las Palmas Airport or Gando Airport, serving Las Palmas on the nearby island of Gran Canaria. The subsequent investigation by Spanish authorities concluded that the primary cause of the accident was the KLM captain's decision to take off in the mistaken belief that a takeoff clearance from Air Traffic Control, ATC, had been issued. Dutch investigators placed a greater emphasis on a mutual misunderstanding in radio communications between the KLM crew and ATC.
We're still taxiing down the runway, Pan Am 1736.
And the airline agreed to financially compensate the relatives of all of the victims. This disaster led to widespread changes in cockpit communication, highlighting in particular the vital importance of using standardized phraseology in radio communications, with strict protocols requiring pilots to clarify orders with air traffic control, particularly in adverse weather conditions. Third, American Airlines Flight 191, 1979. Location: Chicago O'Hare Airport, Illinois, USA. Fatalities: 273. American Airlines Flight 191 was a regularly scheduled domestic passenger flight from O'Hare International Airport in Chicago to Los Angeles International Airport. On the afternoon of May 25, 1979, the McDonnell Douglas DC-10 operating this flight was taking off from runway 32R at O'Hare International when its left engine detached from the wing, causing a loss of control, and the aircraft crashed about 4,600 feet, 1,400 meters, from the end of runway. All 271 occupants on board were killed, along with 2 people on the ground. With 273 fatalities, it is the deadliest aviation accident to have occurred in the United States. The National Transportation Safety Board found that as the aircraft was beginning its takeoff rotation, engine number 1, the left engine, separated from the left wing, flipping over the top of the wing and landing on the runway. As the engine separated from the aircraft, it severed hydraulic line damage to the pylon structure holding the engine to the wing, caused by improper maintenance procedures at American Airlines. A maintenance error resulted in the left engine detaching from the McDonnell Douglas DC-10 during takeoff from Chicago O'Hare. The plane crashed soon after. 4th. Saudi Flight 163. Location: Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Fatalities: 301. Saudi Flight 163 was a scheduled Saudi passenger flight departing from Quaid-e-Azam Airport in Karachi, Pakistan, bound for Kandara Airport in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, via Riyadh International Airport in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, which caught fire after takeoff from Riyadh International Airport, now the Riyadh Air Base, on August 19, 1980. Although the Lockheed TriStar made a successful emergency landing at Riyadh, the flight crew failed to perform an emergency evacuation of the airplane, leading to the deaths of all 287 passengers and 14 crew on board the aircraft from smoke inhalation. After an onboard fire, the plane successfully landed, but a slow evacuation process led to the tragic deaths of all passengers due to smoke inhalation. This led to better fire suppression systems in aircraft. The investigation revealed the fire had started in the aft C3 cargo compartment. The fire was intense enough to burn through the cabin floor, causing passengers seated in that area of the cabin to move forward prior to the landing. Saudi officials found 2 butane stoves in the burned-out remains of the airliner, and a used fire extinguisher near one of them. One early theory was that the fire began in the passenger cabin when a passenger used his own butane stove to heat water for tea. The investigation found no evidence to support this theory. After the event, the airline revised its training and emergency procedures. Lockheed also removed the insulation from above the rear cargo area and added glass laminate structural reinforcement. The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board recommended that aircraft use halomethane extinguishers instead of traditional handheld fire extinguishers. This tragedy led to improvements in aircraft fire detection and suppression systems, as well as more stringent training on emergency evacuation procedures for cabin crew. 5th. Japan Airlines Flight 123. Location: Mount Takamagara, Japan. Fatalities: 520. Japan Airlines Flight 123 was a scheduled domestic passenger flight from Tokyo to Osaka, Japan. On August 12, 1985, the Boeing 747 flying the route suffered a severe structural failure and decompression 12 minutes into the flight. After flying under minimal control for a further 32 minutes, the 747 crashed in the area of Mount Takamagara, 100 kilometers or 62 miles from Tokyo. A catastrophic structural failure caused by improper repairs led to the decompression of the aircraft. The crew struggled to control the plane, but it ultimately crashed, becoming the deadliest single aircraft accident. After a faulty repair from an incident years earlier, the rear pressure bulkhead of the Boeing 747 failed mid-flight, causing explosive decompression and loss of hydraulic controls. The crew struggled to maneuver the plane manually but were unable to prevent it from crashing into Mount Takamagara. All 520 passengers perished except for 4 survivors. The aircraft, featuring a high-density seating configuration, was carrying 524 people. The crash killed all 15 crew members and 505 of the 509 passengers on board, leaving only 4 survivors. An estimated 20 to 50 passengers had survived the initial crash, but died due to their serious injuries a few hours later while awaiting rescue. The crash of Flight 123 is the deadliest single aircraft accident in aviation history. Japan's Aircraft Accident Investigation Commission (AIC) assisted by the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board, concluded that the structural failure was caused by a faulty repair by Boeing technicians following a tail strike incident 7 years earlier. The accident led to major revisions in aircraft maintenance practices and stricter oversight of repair work, emphasizing thorough inspections, especially for pressure-sensitive components.
The plane is doomed. His colleague from Boeing, one of the top
6th. Air India Flight 182. Location: Atlantic Ocean, near Ireland. Fatalities: 329. Air India Flight 182 was a passenger flight operating on the Montreal, London, Delhi, Mumbai route that on June 23, 1985, disintegrated over the Atlantic Ocean as a result of an explosion from a bomb planted by Canadian Sikh terrorists. It was operated using a Boeing 747-237B registered VTFO. The incident happened route from Montreal to London at an altitude of 31,000 feet, 9,400 meters. The fragments of the aircraft fell into the sea approximately 190 kilometers, 120 miles, off the coast of Ireland, killing all 329 people on board, including 268 Canadian citizens, 27 British citizens, and 22 Indian citizens. The bombing of Air India Flight 182 is the worst terrorist attack in Canadian history. A bomb, planted by a terrorist group, exploded mid-flight, leading to the deadliest air disaster involving a Boeing 747. The incident brought attention to the need for tighter airport security. A bomb placed by Sikh separatists exploded on board a Boeing 747 over the Atlantic Ocean. The bomb had been loaded in checked luggage without detection, resulting in the deaths of all 329 passengers and crew. This was one of the earliest large-scale terrorist attacks on commercial aviation. The incident emphasized the need for enhanced airport security and the development of more sophisticated methods for screening checked luggage. It also raised awareness about the threat of international terrorism in aviation. 7th. Iran Air Flight 655. Iran Air Flight 655 was a scheduled passenger flight from Tehran to Dubai via Bandar Abbas that was shot down on July 3, 1988 by two surface-to-air missiles fired by USS Vincennes, a United States Navy warship. It highlighted the dangers of civilian planes operating in or near war zones. 8th. Charki Dadri mid-air collision. Location: near Charki Dadri, India. Fatalities: 349. On November 12, 1996, Saudi Arabian Airlines Flight 763, a Boeing 747 from Delhi, India, to Dhahran, Saudi Arabia, and Kazakhstan Airlines Flight 1907, an Aviation IL-76 route from Chimkent, Kazakhstan, to Delhi, collided over the city of Charki Dadri in India, around 100 kilometers or 62 miles west of Delhi. The crash killed all 349 people on board both planes, making it the world's deadliest mid-air collision and the deadliest aviation accident ever in India. Poor communication and the Kazakhstan crew's misinterpretation of altitude instructions led to the mid-air collision. The final report from the investigation found that the route and approximate cause of the collision was the failure of the Kazakh crew to maintain the correct altitude. Contributing factors included the poor English language skills in the Kazakh cockpit, resulting in inadequate interpretation of directions provided by air traffic control, and 3 specific incidents of failures in crew resource management (CRM) by the Kazakh crew. The report also suggested technical enhancements that would provide assistance in preventing a future crew's mistakes being allowed to go unchecked in real time. Saudi Arabian Airlines Flight 763 was a Boeing 747-168B, departing from Delhi as part of a scheduled international Delhi, Dhahran, Jeddah passenger service with 312 people on board. Kazakhstan Airlines Flight 1907, an Aviation IL-76TD with registration UN 76435, was on a charter service from Chimkent Airport to Delhi. A total of 349 lives were lost from both sides. This accident highlighted the need for clearer separation protocols and led to the introduction of minimum safe altitude warning systems. Indian authorities mandated the use of traffic collision avoidance systems for all commercial flights. 9th. China Airlines Flight 611. Location: Taiwan Strait. Fatalities: 225. On May 25, 2002, the Boeing 747-209B operating the route disintegrated in midair and crashed into the Taiwan Strait, 23 nautical miles or 43 kilometers northeast of the Penghu Islands, 20 minutes after takeoff, killing all 225 people on board. The in-flight breakup was caused by metal fatigue cracks resulting from improper repairs to the aircraft 22 years earlier. China Airlines Flight 611 was a regularly scheduled passenger flight from Chiang Kai-shek International Airport, now Taoyuan International Airport, in Taiwan to Hong Kong International Airport in Hong Kong. The crash remains the deadliest in Taiwan, as well as the most recent accident with fatalities involving China Airlines, and the second deadliest accident in China Airlines history, behind China Airlines Flight 140 with 264 fatalities. The aircraft was the only Boeing 747-200 passenger aircraft left in China Airlines' fleet at the time. The plane was delivered to the airline on August 2, 1979. The aircraft had logged more than 64,800 hours of flight time at the time of the accident. The plane was equipped with 4 Pratt & Whitney JT9D-7AW engines and had a 355-seat configuration. An improper repair made 22 years prior caused a structural failure on this Boeing 747, leading to the plane disintegrating mid-air. The plane had received a quick-fix repair following a tail strike, but the repair was insufficient for long-term airworthiness. All 225 passengers and crew died in the crash over the Taiwan Strait. The tragedy led to more rigorous standards for inspecting and verifying the quality of repairs, especially on older aircraft. Airlines were required to check and document structural repairs more thoroughly to ensure longevity. Followers, put any comments or suggestions on the video after watching up to the end. 10th. Malaysia Airlines Flight MH17. Location, Eastern Ukraine. Fatalities, 298. Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 was a scheduled passenger flight from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur that was shot down by Russian-backed forces with a Buk 9M38 surface-to-air missile on July 17, 2014, while flying over eastern Ukraine. All 283 passengers and 15 crew were killed. Contact with the aircraft, a Boeing 777-200ER, was lost when it was about 50 kilometers 31 miles from the Ukraine-Russia border, and wreckage from the aircraft landed near Rubov in Donetsk Oblast, Ukraine, 25 miles from the border. The shootdown occurred during the war in Donbass over territory controlled by Russian separatist forces. The responsibility for investigation was delegated to the Dutch Safety Board and the Dutch-led Joint Investigation Team, which in 2016 reported that the aircraft had been downed by a Buk surface-to-air missile launched from pro-Russian separatist-controlled territory in Ukraine. The Dutch-led Joint Investigation Team found that the Buk originated from the 53rd Anti-Aircraft Missile Brigade of the Russian Federation and had been transported from Russia on the day of the crash, fired from a field in a rebel-controlled area, and that the launch system returned to Russia afterwards. Flying over Ukraine during an armed conflict, this Boeing 777 was struck by a surface-to-air missile, leading to the deaths of all 298 passengers and crew on board. The incident brought attention to the risks of flying over conflict zones. Many airlines and aviation authorities now take extra precautions to avoid active war zones, regularly updating no-fly zones in response to ongoing conflicts. It highlighted the risks of commercial flights over conflict zones and led to re-evaluations of flight paths. 11th. Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370. Location, disappeared over the southern Indian Ocean. Aircraft, Boeing 777-200ER. Fatalities, 239, all on board. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 disappearance. Disappearance of a Malaysia Airlines passenger jet on March 8, 2014, during a flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. The disappearance of the Boeing 777 with 227 passengers and 12 crew members on board led to a search effort stretching from the Indian Ocean west of Australia to Central Asia. The perplexing nature of the loss of Flight 370 is such that it has become one of history's most famous missing aircraft. Flight 370 took off at 12:41 a.m. local time and reached a cruising altitude of 10,700 meters, 35,000 feet, at 1:01 a.m. The aircraft communication addressing and reporting system, which transmitted data about the aircraft's performance, sent its last transmission and was subsequently switched off. The first piece of debris was not found until July 29, 2015, when the right-wing flaperon was discovered on a beach on the French island of Réunion, about 3,700 kilometers, 2,300 miles, west of the Indian Ocean area that was being searched by Australian authorities. Despite extensive search efforts, only some debris has been found. Investigations have speculated on various causes, from mechanical failure to deliberate actions by someone on board, but the exact cause remains unknown. MH370's disappearance led to improvements in global aircraft tracking systems, including recommendations for more continuous satellite-based tracking. The International Civil Aviation Organization mandated new protocols, including reporting location every 15 minutes, aiming to prevent future disappearances of this nature.
Please like, share, subscribe. Thank you.